Today, we are going to focus on a very interesting and trending topic: transformational change and how that leads to sustainable business transformation. Today, we are joined by Ana Cavagnoli. I'm really excited to welcome Ana in the studio today. I've had the privilege meeting Ana before at one of our community meetups. Anna brings over 2 decades of experience leading large-scale transformation across Fortune 500 organizations, combining strategy, service excellence, and human-centered leadership. Anna, could you give us a bit of an introduction and tell us a bit more about yourself?
Okay, so first of all, Bianca, thank you so much for inviting me for this podcast. And so my name is Ana, as you said. I'm originally from Brazil, and I have been living in the United States for the past 13 years. And my entire career, I can say that I definitely navigating in different levels of change management and business transformation. This is a passion that I have at my core. And currently, I'm working in HID Global as Director of Customer Engagement.
That's great. Thank you so much, Anna. It's good to have you here. As I mentioned a while ago, we had a discussion in one of the community meetups where you delivered a session called Transformational Change That Sticks. And during that session, you actually mentioned that transformational leaders are key to driving real change. What does that really mean to be a transformational leader? Is it a title, a role, or just a way of being? If you could elaborate on that a bit.
So, Bianca, great question. So, as we know, we are in an era of a fast-paced change. Change is not an option anymore. And one thing that I always see is that a lot of organizations really want to embrace change, but the change doesn't stick. And why? Because there is what I call a leadership gap in a lot of organizations. And what is this leadership gap? Normally, when a change needs to be implemented, who sets the vision is normally the C-suite that has the vision, okay? And for the other side, most of the organizations, besides having the strategic leaders, they have a lot what we call transactional leaders. And who are transactional leaders? And those leaders are important. Are those leaders that run the day-to-day routines and tasks, okay? Most of those transactional leaders, they don't challenge the status quo. They are good in keeping the status quo. Now, when you want to really lead a change in an organization or implement a change in an organization, this is where the transformational leadership skill, style of a leadership, answering your question, is extremely important. So yes, some organizations can use this as a title because they are really focused on having a strong vertical for change. But it's not all about a title, it's a style of a leadership. And a lot of times, some people has very strong skills of transformational leaders, but sometimes we can develop the transactional leaders to have the transformational leader skills. Now, when I talk about transformational leader and being more specific, a transformational leader has some kind of a key elements. First of all, the transformational leader are highly inspirational. They are not moved, or they don't, their communication style is not about the what to do, but why we do what we do. They also bring more people into the core of a sense of a belonging and understanding the purpose of why that change is needed. The transformation leader is also the type of a style that challenge status quo. Instead of just accepting the answers like, oh, this is the way we do business, this type of a leadership, transformation leadership, is going to say, has to be that way. Why is that it is that way? And it's always trying to embed innovation. Transformation leader has as a core, they are not afraid of changes. And the way that they came across and they communicate to people is really inspiring and bringing the benefits or the purpose of the change. Additional to it, the transformation leader has at the core what I call some in the root of a transformation leader is humility. So what I mean with that, with humility, uh, transformation leaders are going to identify champions that are going to help them to implement the change, and they are not going to be ambitious. This person is not going to be ambitious to get the credit by itself, by themselves. They are going to give the credit for the team that is embracing the vision. So humility is a core element of a transformation leadership. You don't take the glory for yourself. You give the glory, the kudos to who is part of this movement, this motion that you are creating. Transformation leaders is also highly empathetic. It's another attribute because they can understand the underlying challenges or resistance that's coming from people. And when they understand this in an empathetic lenses, they know how to communicate vision, how communicate the change. So this is the kind of a style of leadership that if our organization doesn't develop in transactional leaders or don't bring a strong leader with transformational leadership personality, style, that's one of the reasons that the changes doesn't stick.
That makes absolute sense. You just talked a lot about the attributes of a transformational leader. So I want to go directly into the next question. I think something that everybody would like to know, and that is about the barriers that you face when driving change. In our previous session, you also talked about all of those barriers that hold transformation back. What are the most common barriers that organizations face when driving change, and how can they overcome them?
So Bianca, this is a very good because one of the stigmas that we need to really break or change is the stigma that what is holding a change it's people. A lot of times we talk about some with some people that are implementing change, some leaders, and they say, "Oh, it's very hard to get the leaders buy-in or having the people in the department have the buy-in." What is really holding a change is not people. It's what is behind this. And when you go to the root, most of the times it's fear. It's everything is rooted in fear. And if I can go even deeper, is also about the belief that people are having about the change. And a lot of times this fear is this belief is rooted in fear. So when I say fear, what I want to mean is number one, a lot of people just have a fear to lose their jobs. Okay, this job, just this change is coming, and this is going to take out my job. Oh, the other fear that people can have is a fear like, okay, this is coming, this is going to give me much more work, are going to make things extremely difficult. So this is also some fear is also something in that realm that needs to be assessed. So that's why when you think about people, it's never the enemy of a change, but it's the beliefs and the feelings that people has towards the change. So when you address the belief or when you address that feeling, you are going to be much more successful in implementing a change.
So I think, Anna, I'm going to go straight into the next question because the next area is communication in transformation. And I think this is probably a very, very important part. You know, everyone says communication is critical for change, but it's often discussed in a very generic way. Can you please explain to us in a bit more depth what effective communication really means in business transformation and how these transformational leaders can master that?
So yes, in order for you to overcome fear, as we are talking about, the communication is very, very important. And the first thing that we need to understand is that your communication style has to be anchored in purpose. So really bringing why that change is necessary. So you can definitely compare the current status quo, how it is, and where you want to go. So you lead people to the path of the change. So telling, look, here is where we are, and this is the results that we have. and why we want to change and the impact that we want to bring to the organization is going to bring us in that level. So this is the first thing. Another thing that we need to understand when you're talking about communication, you need to understand that sometimes you are addressing to different generations. And with the different generations, the motivations are different. So I will give you an example. 25% of our organization, you are going to have people that are from the baby bloomers that are born between 46 to 64. These people, they are not motivated by purpose, they are motivated by stability. So you really need to make sure when you are talking to our audience to take a look who are in the audience, so you can address this according with their beliefs. If they are driven by stability, you need to make sure that you are really explaining that this is not going to bring any problem with their stability level. Or if this is going to really impact stability, you need to find a way to really make sure that this is not something that's going to keep them on that fear mode. When you go for another layer, you have 32% of organizations that is what you call the generation X. And generation X is really on the autonomy. So if they think that the change that's coming is going to reduce their autonomy, you are going to face resistance there. When you think about 35% of your organization, and these are kind of studies that shows that you have the people that are in the generation Y, that is between they were born in the 80s to 94. These type of people, they are really motivated in feeling them valued. So you really need to make sure that when you're talking to that people or you are going to work with that people, you need to make sure that they are feeling valuable. And after that, the generation Z and Alpha, they are truly motivated by purpose driven. They are really rooted in meaning. So if you don't understand with whom you are working in an organization to drive change, your communication style can fail there. In addition to it, there is another element of a communication that it's very important to understand. The communication is not only set for what you say, it's also in order for you to master communication, you need to understand that the 93% of your communication is non-verbal. 55% it's coming from your body language. 38 for your tone of voice. And only 7% is by your words. So yes, speaking very well, it's important. But your body language and the tone of your voice, speaking louder, speaking lower, speaking calmer, speaking faster, it's going to definitely master your communication and the way that you're going to communicate change in an organization.
That makes perfect sense. So basically, what you are saying as well is it's not a one size fit all when it comes to communication. You need to look at that audience, understand your audience, in which generation they fall, and then look at your body language and the way you present yourself. So, Anna, we've actually looked at three areas now: transformational leadership and what that looks like, the barriers to driving change. And then communication in transformation. As a last question, I want to talk about resistance from senior leadership. And I think this is something that a lot of organizations face. Sometimes the resistance to change comes from the senior leadership. And as change agents, we can't just give up when that happens. How can organizations and change leaders overcome resistance when it starts at the top?
Perfect. And yes, again, this kind of resistance can come from senior leaders, and sometimes they are not against your change, but they have some concerns that you need to make sure that you overcome. And one of the things that I always recommend to others, you don't need to convince the leaders. What you need to do is to change your approach. So you are going to implement a change that is massive, that's going to be in the all states in the United States or England,
Yeah.
wherever it is. So you can dream big, but start small. You need to identify those people in the organization that believe in what you want to do it, that believe in that change. And with that, you will start implementing small pilots. So when you do a small pilot, and I can tell you an example in my career, I'm going to use one in my beginning of my career when we are implementing a project in ERP, and a lot of leaders were completely against or fearful. Okay, so in the end, I identified one state, and I was living in Brazil at that time. One state that was completely very. I had a very strong relationship with the manager. He believed on that. So we implemented the change in that office, one state. And with that office implementing, I executed. And then naturally, like that, you create organic promoters that are going to
Mm.
talk around the company. Oh, that change that Anna is making is helping me so much. And you come with indicators and you show, look, before they were taking 3 hours to do this task, now they are doing 30 minutes because they have do this. And more than you showing the results, people are going to talk about it. This happened with me years and years ago in the beginning of my career. In another position when I got here in the United States was the same. When I was working with customer experience, people didn't believe that this was something that would be implemented in the kind of industry that I was working. I got one office. I work with that office. I support that office. I implement that change with that office. And after that, they start to talk among themselves. And the other managers saw the results in that office, say, I want that for me too. Can you do with me now? And I started one by one. And there was a moment that was a lot, and this became something so significant that say, no, we need to implement this everywhere. So the change becomes organic. But think big, start small, and consistently show the results, and people are going to be your promoters. You don't need to defend the change you want to implement. People are going to defend for you.
That's amazing, Anna. Thank you for sharing that relevant example. I think the audience is really, really going to appreciate that. Thank you so much, Anna, for joining us today, for sharing your insights on this crucial topic. Before we conclude, is there any final message you would like to share with the viewers today relating to this topic?
Yes. So I really need to come back again to communication. I know that a lot of, if you go in LinkedIn, if you go in trainings, it's all about communication, but people talk about that in such a vague way. And you always have opportunity to improve your communication. Okay, always. And this is something that I'm learning every day in my career. So for example, my style of a presentation, it's very energetic. Okay, but things that I have been learning more and more is that my style of energetic uh, presentation skill has to be balanced again depending of our audience. So if I am presenting a concept or idea, this energy level is very well received because it's motivational, it's
Mm.
inspirational, it's really bringing the need for change. But if I'm presenting to an executive committee, I need to tone this down a little bit. And it's not about inspiring or motivation, because with the C suite, they don't want to see passion, they want to see results. So, this is something that you really need to pay attention and fine tuning day after day after day. Yes, you need to understand your strengths when you are presenting to leverage it, but you need to also understand that depending of the audience, your strengths has to be turned down, because for that type of scenario or situation, it's not an energy or motivational or inspirational speech that's going to stick, but more a rational, numeric, result oriented and strategic way. So this is what I would like to end my conversation. So I would say that communication is something that we really need to keep mastering and learning more.
Thank you so much, Anna. Thank you for sharing that. And I think that is extremely crucial what you just mentioned. To our viewers, thank you for joining us today. We'd like to remind you to stay connected with BPM Real Talk. We have many more exciting episodes coming up, each with its own unique perspective and inspiring story to share. Thank you so much, Anna, for joining us today. And it was great to have you back again.
Thank you. Thank you very much, Bianca.